They called it the Day of Integration. Theranine sky was soft with amber clouds, the air heavy with recycled flower pollen and manufactured celebration. Children ran beneath the banners of peace, synthetic silk printed with both the Earth Union seal and the fractal glyphs of the Athelian Empire. There was music, laughter. Artificial gravity shimmered in localized pockets to make the children float for seconds, just to hear them squeal with joy. Mila Stone danced among them, a red ribbon trailing from her wrist. 7 years old. Freckles. A chipped front tooth she refused to fix because pirates don't need perfect smiles. She was joy incarnate, loud, relentless, and shining. Her mother stood at the edge of the crowd, arms folded, eyes alert. Not smiling. Varaya Stone had once commanded firestorms. You wouldn't know it now. Civilian garb, scar across her throat, eyes like volcanic glass, cooled too quickly. Her military records had been sealed, her clearance stripped, her titles dissolved. The Earth Union insisted she retire. Too many black marks, too many gray decisions. She'd accepted it. Her husband had died in the last assault on the Zeta Vector Trench. She had one reason left to live, and that reason was currently trying to feed ice cream to a local sword hatchling. Varaya's hand tightened on a lanyard around her neck. A charm, shaped like a butterfly, handmade from scavenged wiring. Then came the shift in pressure. The air hummed. Every Athelian ambassador dropped to their knees as the light bent inward. He arrived. Zirith Kai, Lord of the Athelian Empire, sovereign of Vector and Void. He descended without craft or ceremony, just a ripple of space, and then he was there. A being not made, but calculated. 10 limbs folded in recursive symmetry. No mouth, no eyes, just a sphere of polished obsidian for a head, reflecting all and nothing. He did not walk. He hovered, each movement accompanied by harmonic resonance, a sound like a cathedral breathing. The humans clapped. Mila didn't. She was staring at him, slack-jawed, a smear of chocolate across her cheek. Then she pointed. Is that a jellyfish? Varaya took one step forward. Mila. Too late. The child was already skipping toward him. The Athelian honor guard shifted. Tension fractured the crowd's laughter like glass under a bullet. Varaya was running now, shoving past a pair of frozen diplomats. Her voice caught in her throat. Mila stood in front of the Galactic King. Hi, I'm Mila. You look weird. Want to see my ribbon trick? The honor guard raised their limbs. The king observed, or processed, or assessed. No one ever knew with Athelians. He emitted a soft, harmonic tone. Varaya was still 10 meters away. Her legs burned. She screamed, Don't! Zirith Kai did not raise a limb. He did not speak. He simply twitched a single vibrational node, and gravity obeyed. Mila's body compacted instantly. Bones shattered inward. Her eyes bulged. She made a sound like a balloon deflating, and then collapsed, folding in on herself, her skull splitting down the center with perfect mathematical precision. The plaza fell into silence. No gunfire, no screaming, just the quiet of incomprehension. Then Varaya knelt beside her daughter's remains. Blood soaked her palms. A sliver of the butterfly charm had embedded itself in her child's throat. She touched it gently, as if her fingers could rewind time. No one moved. The diplomats waited. The Athelians returned to standing posture. Zirith Kai spoke for the first and only time that day. Deviation corrected. The Athelians vanished in a flash of spatial distortion. Varaya stayed there, unmoving, cradling the uncradleable. Night fell. No one dared approach. The next morning, she stood outside the central comm tower, holding a torch. They told her she couldn't go in, that her credentials were obsolete. She burned the door down. Inside, she bypassed 3 security walls, rerouted a power conduit through her forearm scar implant, and activated a Class E war frequency, one not used since the siege of Neptune's grave. Only 3 people in the quadrant even remembered what that signal meant. All 3 answered. Her voice carried across dead channels like gospel. This is Varaya Stone, mother of Mila, last carrier of the Earth Fire Protocol. I'm calling the ghosts. I'm calling the ferals. I'm calling the ones who never signed the peace. Silence. Then static resolved into a chuckle. Jax Hallow, former orbital demolitionist. Once court-martialed for dropping a moon on a cruiser out of spite. Stone, you back. I was never gone. Another voice. Female. Rough. Smoker's rasp soaked in gunpowder. Tell me who we're killing. Varea's tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. The Galactic King. A pause. Holy shit, Jack said almost reverently. And then laughter, raw, broken, beautiful. She cut the transmission. Outside, dawn cracked over Theranine. Orange sky bleeding into purple. No banners. No music. Just dust curling in the wind and a scorch mark where her daughter died. Varea stepped onto the plaza. People gathered, quiet, uncertain. She stared them down. They took my child. A whisper. They thought it would end here. She held up the charred butterfly charm. Its metal blackened, but still intact. It begins here. Then she dropped it. And as it hit the stone, as the sound echoed across the courtyard, across the broken hearts and blinking cameras and silent officials, the war began again. Not with a declaration, not with a fleet, but with a mother's fury. And that was enough. The remnants were not an army. They were a rumor that set data cores on fire. Varea found them where civilization wouldn't look. Junk moons, sunless belts, old war graves with names no empire bothered to erase. Each one answered her call like wolves to a lost scent. Jax Hallow arrived in a mining skiff barely holding pressure. His face was half-burned, smile crooked, eyes like broken stars. Heard you need a lunatic. I need a demolitionist, Varea answered, handing him a schematic of the Athelian Forge network. Jax grinned. Same thing. They recruited Corin next, once a cybernetic surgeon, now addicted to entropy. Then Vice, the only man to escape an Athelian logic prison by teaching his captor how to dream. Every one of them carried a scar shaped like survival. Everyone had lost something the Empire had deemed insignificant. They called themselves remnants like it was a joke, but they fought like vengeance in human skin. Their first strike was small, an Athelian listening post deep inside the quiet zone of Cradle Sector. Varea gave no speech. She simply nodded once. Jax planted charges in silence. When the post exploded, the debris spelled MYLA in a vacuum for 7 full seconds before scattering. A message, not to the Athelians, to herself. They kept moving. Fast, dirty, no flags, no patterns. Sabotage followed raids. Communications corrupted. Storage silos collapsed. Varea didn't aim to win. She aimed to wound, slow, deep psychological. She targeted what the Empire didn't think could be targeted. Meaning, memory, stability. It worked. Athelian strategy, based on calculated response chains, began to unravel. Their AI field commanders couldn't reconcile human motives. Their algorithms froze when analyzing patterns driven by grief, spite, love. On one dead moon, they carved a child's face into the orbital relay. It smiled down on every ship that passed. The Athelians removed it within hours. The next day, 3 more appeared. One commander requested full cleansing of 5 outer colonies. Denied. Human infection, his report read, is not physical. It is emotional. It replicates through defiance. Zirith Kai watched from the center of the throne world. He read each report himself now. Logical, clinical, yet increasingly unsure. He did not understand why the war persisted. The child was gone. The event corrected. The probability of retaliation had been less than 0.0014%. And yet, the woman burned his outer systems down with rage as fuel. His counsel suggested capture. He did not answer. Instead, he authorized the reawakening of the Echo Architects, entities made to simulate rebellion. Digital ghosts trained to counter irrational actors. It didn't matter. Varea corrupted them too. Not with malware, but with memories. They captured one Echo. Vice wired it to a human emotion archive. Fed it old lullabies. First heartbreaks. Last words. It began repeating, I dreamed I was a boy. Then it self-destructed. Jax watched the wreckage burn. You're breaking their minds, V. No, she said quietly. I'm showing them ours. It wasn't just sabotage anymore. It was infection, not of systems, but of soul. Humanity had always been dangerous, not because they were strong, not because they were clever, but because they felt too much and refused to apologize for it. On the 300th day, they hit an Athelian noble transport. No military value, just symbolism. Inside, they found artifacts, empathy suppression masks, ceremonial logic beads, a child-sized stasis pod. Varaya didn't speak. She set the ship to overload and left a single human file, transmitting on loop. A home video. Mila dancing in a sunlit field. Laughing. Alive. The Athelians tried to jam it, but it already spread. Every node that deleted it found it resurrected elsewhere, wearing a different face, a different child. The Empire began to feel something alien, unease. Zirith Kai finally addressed the remnants publicly. A broadcast, transmitted across every secure channel. He stood within a cathedral of symmetry, voice rendered into perfect synthetic bass. You grieve incorrectly. It is inefficient. End this. Varaya responded within minutes. A single line. You killed one girl. Now meet the billions she could have become. Jax leaned back his chair, whistling low. They're panicking. They should, Varaya replied. We haven't started. The remnants gathered on a hollowed asteroid. Miles of wreckage turned into a staging ground. Old mechs retooled. Weapons carved from salvaged dreams. No command structure, just purpose. They came from every corner now. Not just soldiers. Teachers. Engineers. Orphans who'd learned to code rage into satellites. And everywhere Varaya walked, they saluted. Not with rank, but respect. Jax approached her before their next move. You sure you want to hit Zirith Kai directly? She didn't hesitate. He sits at the center, untouched, surrounded by equations and silence. He thinks we can't reach him. Jax scratched his beard. You got a plan? I have a funeral to finish. Their jump drive activated with a shriek. Too old, too unstable. But it lit the stars behind them like a torch in mourning. They didn't cloak. They wanted him to see them coming. Varaya sat alone during the transit, holding the butterfly charm Mila had worn. The metal had warped in the explosion, but the shape was still there. She closed her eyes and remembered the laugh. The dirt on her daughter's knees. The way she said, love you, like a battle cry. Jax found her like that and said nothing. He just sat beside her. She didn't open her eyes. Jax, she said. Yeah. If we die tomorrow. He stopped her with a shake of his head. We don't die. We become. And for the first time since the war began, Varaya smiled. Small, crooked, real. Then the alarm lit red. Zirith Kai was in sight, and the final chapter had already begun. Zirith Kai gleamed like a forbidden thought, impossibly smooth, perfectly still, nestled in a web of orbiting equations etched in silver light. It was not a planet, not a station. It was a symbol, the throne of Zirith Kai, the eye of the Empire. No ship had ever reached its surface uninvited. Until now, the remnant fleet arrived, not in silence, but in screaming engines and unshielded cores, blazing through quantum firewalls like fury incarnate. Every warning system lit red. Defense satellites activated. Protocol spun. Drones launched in swarms. And then hesitated. Human signals flooded their targeting matrices. Not military commands, not coordinates, but poetry, laughter, screams. One drone received the sound of a child's heartbeat. Another got a memory of a wedding on Mars. Another a mother's last words to her son. Some drones self-terminated. Others turned on their own. Zirith Kai's airspace became chaos, and chaos was theirs. Inside her drop pod, Varaya checked the charge on her arm-mounted detonation key. It blinked green. She wasn't trembling. There was no more space left in her for fear. Jax's voice cracked through the comms. We've breached the outer perimeter. You're up, General. She didn't correct him. Not this time. She launched. Her pod hit the throne world with a thunderclap, skipping off its energy dome before biting through a seam in the structure, one she'd memorized from stolen blueprints. The impact shattered the corridor walls. Smoke hissed from ruptured vents. She rose from the wreckage like a myth born in war. Waiting for her were 24 honor guards, tall, fractal, and gleaming. She stepped forward, blood on her boots, butterfly charm dangling from her neck. They didn't fire. One of them spoke in harmonic resonance. Defined purpose. She pointed to the symbol carved into her armor. A child smile. Mila Stone. Then she drew her sidearm and opened fire. She didn't need to win. She just needed through. They underestimated what grief could do inside human bones. Viraya moved like vengeance made flesh, spinning, ducking, unloading rounds carved with names of the dead. Guards fell. Alarms shrieked. She sprinted through the carnage, absorbing hits that would have dropped lesser beings. She reached the central chamber. It opened like an iris. Inside, perfection. A single platform suspended in void. Equations hovered in midair, glowing symbols rotating in silence. At the center stood Zirith Kai, unchanged, cold, timeless, 10 limbs coiled in balance. He regarded her like a failed hypothesis. You come alone. She approached. I brought everyone I lost. He tilted his obsidian head. You are in error. This was not predicted. You gained nothing. She unclipped the charm from her neck and let it swing from her fingers. I lost everything, and that made me free. You are grief. Temporary. No, she said. I'm human, and that's permanent. He pulsed with light, calculating. We have erased empires more advanced than yours, and we bleed more than any of them. He raised a limb. I offer you correction, an end to pain. She smiled. My pain is the reason you're dying. He moved, faster than light, a quantum lunge, but she was already reaching for the key. The singularity charge linked to her heart flickered to life. One squeeze. That's all it would take. He stopped mid-strike, analyzed, calculated probabilities. You will destroy yourself. Yes. In exchange for what? She stared him down, vision swimming. For the chance that your silence finally ends. Then Jax's voice cracked through her earpiece. I'm in position. I see you. Don't do it. You shouldn't be here, she murmured. Too bad. A pause. Then, quieter. We can win without this. No, she whispered. We win because of this. Zirith Kai's voice sharpened. You would annihilate us both for symbolism. No, she said, closing her fist. For her. The platform split with a shockwave. Jax had detonated the logic core under the chamber. Earthquake bloom of sound and light. Zirith Kai stumbled, limbs flaring. Viraya ran straight at him. She jumped. Time slowed. She felt the weight of Mila in her arms again. Remembered the laughter, the softness, the breath before sleep. Her last word, mama. She hit the king midair. And then, she didn't press the key. She let it go. Jax had rerouted the singularity into the throne's stabilizer. It cracked open beneath them, swallowing Zirith Kai in cascading equations turned nonsense. Viraya landed hard, ribs snapping. But she was alive. He wasn't. His body flickered, geometry folding in on itself, unraveling into pure failure. He didn't scream. He just ceased. And with him, the logic web collapsed. All across the Empire, drones fell from the sky. Equations stopped resolving. Ships drifted commanderless. Athelian networks flooded with human sounds. A cry, a song, a name, a child's laughter. They say the throne world burned for 7 days, and from its ashes rose a world of sound and soul. Viraya didn't make a home. Her body was recovered in orbit, curled around a data core containing a single file, the butterfly dance. Jax delivered it to Earth himself. He stood before a crowd of orphans and veterans in a plaza named for a girl who never grew up. Mila Stone, he said, did not die in vain. Her mother made sure of it. He looked to the stars, and from that fire they rose. And that is why, when the stars speak now, they do not speak in numbers. They speak in stories.